Okay. Good evening, the Town of Cromwell Planning and Zoning regular meeting of Tuesday, April 7th. I'm calling to order. Alice Kelly, Chair.
Mike Donata.
Andrew Holt.
John Comtois, alternate.
Ann Grasso.
Rich Nordman.
At this time, I'd like to have a motion to seat the alternate.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, public comment? Oh, okay, moving on. Development officers?
Yeah, so for tonight, I just wanted to give a reminder that we are a combined planning and zoning commission. Where I came from previously, it was separated, and I think sometimes when you become combined, you kind of lose sense of all of your responsibilities. One of those would be, we are required to give a 30-day notice referral to the Council of Governments. That's on text amendments and rezonings. So that's gonna be part of our process. We need to do that for some of the applications we have coming up, including the proposed text amendment tonight. So we have those all prepared and ready to go. If we're in agreement tonight, we'll send those out to the COGS tomorrow. We have to give them 30 days to consider it and give us a response back. So that pushes out those type of applications at least 30 days, which makes it tough for us on a, to get it on a clean 30-day schedule. So it really pushes those applications out about a month and a half.
Has that ever been done before?
Has what been done before?
This 30 days with sending it out to RiverCog?
I am not sure. You're required to do it. It is state law. And
No, we
any
have.
decision, any
have.
decision.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay, but and so it's just a friendly reminder, that I'm gonna be making sure that we're doing that, because I wasn't sure if everyone was aware. And, so just a reminder, I guess, that we are a planning and zoning commission, and we're required to give those 30-day notices to COP. That is all for Director of Planning. I guess we went out of order. Bruce, did you have anything?
So, we are going on a monthly report, which will be at the end of the month, like last month's.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing today.
Nothing today. So there's nothing new going on in Cromwell that you can talk about, or are all those little things going?
Nothing zoning-wise, I believe. A herpetologist told me he did hear the Atlantic leopard frog on near the river near Cromwell Landing.
You saw it?
He heard it, and I guess they've been trying to hear this certain species for a number of years because it's potentially endangered. So
And the legs
that
are
was-
delicious, by the way.
I'm sorry.
I didn't say that.
Frog
out
legs,
loud.
yeah. So no, nothing truly zoning wise, just kind of things like that. Just kind of
So what does
interesting
that mean?
facts.
Because he goes down and listens to this unknown, unseen creature.
Yeah, I don't have any answers for you. Actually, he's going to be reporting back to the legislature, because that's what he does. So
Holy
I
mackerel.
don't know what that means exactly,
Where
but
did you hear this?
He went down and sat by
right,
the
if you
river.
go past the area of Cromwell Landing, where where the gate is there,
Oh,
at the
yeah,
road,
okay,
if you
yeah.
follow along, there's the fish and game property.
Yep.
And it's right in that area that I guess is prime for this species. Yeah. So just
No.
kind of a interesting fact, nothing really important zoning wise, but if that interests you.
So do you know what the prognosis is on Popeyes?
I do not have any information. I've heard just kind of in the rumor mill that he has 2 other Popeyes, maybe 1 or 2, and he's trying to finish those up.
Last time I spoke with the project manager, he said that they're trying to finish one up in a town somewhere north of us in Connecticut. And that the permitting process there was very difficult, unlike Cromwell's, he said. I wish it was like Cromwell's, because it's dragging, and they can't split resources and come to Cromwell's site to finish up. So they've done what they could do. I think the interior has all the appliances and all the kitchen things that you need. We're,
It's not my favorite place to eat, but it would be nice to see it not so messy on the corner.
be nice to see it finished, and as Andrew and I have discussed, they've got a lot more landscaping to supplement. They had a lot of winter kill. A lot of winter kill there.
Not surprised with the salt and
Right.
the snow this year.
But, so anyways, stay tuned. We'll give you an update when we get one.
Can you give us any kind of update on South Street, or is that because of ongoing litigation you can't?
At this point, we cannot.
Okay. I understand.
And I will ask about Popeyes for all that irrigation. Are they, with a timer?
I don't know.
I think that we need to look at our regulations if we're requesting irrigation, that it would be under it with a timer.
It could also be a condition of your approvals.
Right, you know, rather than somebody running out, and putting on a faucet, running back out, turning it off.
Like the AutoZone?
Yeah.
That doesn't?
Yeah, that's why they lost a lot of their,
Yeah,
to the summer heat, yeah.
you know,
They didn't realize they had to turn on the irrigation.
they. Oh,
Make
well,
this stuff up.
whatever. It's like, you know, who's on first and who fell off third. Okay,
I agree.
so, under planner, new business.
Holy Christmas, that's on the screen.
Well, look at,
Wow,
He-
I'm impressed.
no, be impressed, he got a computer that stays in this room.
Oh, it stays in this room?
Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Yes, so I advocated very hard for this.
Okay.
With our IT guy, so I'm very happy with him and just glad that he honored my request.
Question, does this mean that when an applicant comes in, they're not gonna bring their own laptop, they're gonna bring like a card and slam it into this?
Correct.
And
So there's-
all of our interconnect crap?
There's no more
Goes
plugging
away.
in there and messing up our feed, messing up our recording.
Oh, thank
I
you,
was very
thank you.
adamant, yes, thank you.
Right, but I think also he was, because he got a call when he was down at a conference in Florida when we had our 4 public hearings.
Okay,
But this is really, I'm excited about this because I feel like I can provide more information to you and show you exactly what I'm talking
But
about.
Thank you, Andrew,
You're
because,
welcome, thank you.
you know,
so
So,
you managed to drag them kicking and screaming into the 20th century?
yes, yes.
Are
So
you
here
sure?
we are. You could recommend it if you'd like. No, it didn't exactly come with that, but I'm honored. Yeah, happy to take us into the new era here. So it's our first time, I guess, going digital. I guess the next step, further down the line might be that we go to a hybrid meeting. That's going to maybe take me getting settled here and having the time to actually get into that because we got a lot going on, as you can see.
So right now, people that are home watching on the
Yes,
YouTube, so they're seeing this.
correct.
Excellent.
If we could go to hybrid, we could take it a step further where not only could people participate online, but you'd see the screen with the agenda and the plan and whatever I'm talking about, but also a little video screen of the room here. So
Okay.
that would be the ideal kind of good, better, best. If we can, at some point maybe get to the best option,
Yeah,
that'd be ideal for me.
well, this is certainly a step in the right direction. Thank
Good to
you.
hear, thank you so much. All right, so we'll start it off with new business. Discussion of proposed changes to the town of Cromwell zoning regulations related to alcoholic beverages.
excuse me,
Yep,
we needed to add these.
oh, go ahead. My
No, you
apologies.
have to.
Actually, we put that after new business tonight,
Oh, okay,
number
then that's
9,
fine.
and
That's
so
fine.
that we could, after this discussion,
Yes,
if everyone's
okay.
in agreement on the proposed text amendment,
Yep.
then we can schedule it. If
Okay.
we need to make any amendments on the fly, we could. I'm hopeful we don't have to, because it could be maybe problematic, but let's see. So back to discussion of the proposed changes for the zoning regulations related to alcoholic beverage and the associated uses, including required separation distances. So generally, I wrote a memo, and the feeling that I got from the commission was that you wanted me to look into Number one, liquor licenses and what was believed to be the tavern, which would serve alcohol without food. What we found out was tavern was repealed by the state in 2020. So that no longer exists, and what remains is 26 different types of on-premise liquor licenses. So they have a wide variety when they go to the state to choose from there. The closest thing to a tavern now would be a cafe permit, and that requires some form of food. It could be prepackaged, it could be a food truck, it could even be, according to the state, by some menu with a delivery service. You know, that's up to them. But I think the goal here was for us to open it up to those type of uses that would serve alcohol with minimal food, because that's at least what's required. And importantly, without a kitchen. So I've listed the state cafe definition here. And essentially, I'm just going to read the first part. Cafe means a space that is A, located in a suitable and permanent building, B, is kept, used, maintained, advertised, and held out to the public to be a place where alcoholic liquor and food are served at retail for consumption on the premises. C, at all times has employed therein an adequate number of employees. And D, does not include public sleeping accommodations. And E, need not necessarily have a dining room or kitchen. That was the important part, not having a kitchen, in order to kind of allow for this new type of use in town.
And Andrew, this is all state statute.
These are the state
The
liquor
liquor-
requirements. Yes, I don't know if it's actually law, but it
Right.
might as well be.
Right.
So there's a number of things here that pertain just to the state. And here is their table of classifications. There's two different type of cafes that they could apply for. A cafe bar, full liquor, a cafe bar for beer and wine. And as you see in the special requirements here, demonstrate food availability, either made on premise, prepackaged, or through takeout menus for places that will deliver. Apparently there is at least a 2 restroom requirement, but there is a hardship waiver available. So now getting back to our zoning regulations after looking at the liquor permit, we have a lot of wide flexibility with this part C here. We basically allow a liquor permit in any place that the state does. And I think that's a good place to be, because if the state changes, then we remain in lockstep with the state. We're always, whatever the state allows, we allow. So we don't even have to change our regulations. It remains, it mirrors the state requirement. So the use is okay. The use is pretty straightforward and simple. The issue at hand now is the distance requirement. This is our current regulation here, number 2. Oops, sorry. Not in bold. And it has a 1,500 foot distance requirement between cafes, taverns, or similar outlet for consumption of alcoholic beverages on the premises. Interestingly, we just redid our regulations, and tavern was repealed back in 2020, so I don't know why that's even in there. It doesn't make sense. We don't have a definition for a tavern. As I found out today, we don't even have a definition for a cafe. So I'm also proposing, as part of this proposed amendment tonight, to create a definition, a new definition for cafe, and that would, again, mirror the state definition for cafe. Yeah, I think you could see how this is problematic when we have different terminology here than the state. Or our regulations are different than the state. So in the new proposed text amendment here in bold, we're taking out tavern entirely because it doesn't exist. And we're gonna say, similar to other requirements in this same section, they simply say there is no distance requirement between such and such. And that's what I'm proposing here, just to keep it simple. Replace the existing number 2 of 4C42, and say that a cafe or similar outlet for consumption of alcoholic beverages on the premises shall have no distance restrictions from another cafe or similar outlet for consumption of alcoholic beverages on the premises. So this would just eliminate it entirely. And I tried to give a little summary here of what the result of that would be. So we're only changing one thing, but I just wanted to give you a greater picture of the different uses that now have no distance requirement. And you see them listed here, and we're including cafe and similar outlets now in that list of existing uses without distance requirements. And we're keeping everything else the same. So the way we have it right now is retail outlets for consumption of alcoholic beverages still has a 1,500-foot distance requirement. That is, package stores, that type of thing. Consumption of alcoholic beverages on the premises of a bowling alley or a hotel within a 500-foot distance. That's remaining unchanged. I haven't really analyzed that part of it. I was sticking specifically to kind of what you guys requested and wanted to keep it simple. And lastly, parcels cannot be within 500 feet of any part of any lot used for the purpose of a public school, church, a charitable institution, a hospital, or a library. Those are all remaining unchanged. I listed these here just so you could get the full section here of our existing zoning regulations, so you could reference them. And with that, I'm really trying to keep this simple and just replace the existing one. Let me throw up here the language.
What's a charitable institution?
Yeah.
What would be an example of a charitable institution?
Some kind of
I said
nonprofit,
Columbus.
maybe some type of nonprofit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just curious.
So we drafted
United
today,
Way.
in anticipation of us agreeing tonight on this proposed text amendment and scheduling it for public hearing. We put together a draft application, and I also included as part B, part A was just everything we've talked about tonight, the current regulation, the proposed regulation. These are the districts that would be affected. The reason for the proposed change was to remove outdated distance requirements for cafes and to better align with the state liquor permit requirements and remove the reference to taverns, which was repealed in 2020. Now, Part B is the new part that was not part of your packet, but me and Bruce came up with this today and realized that this was needed to make it work. And it is essentially, very simply, just adding a new definition of a cafe to our zoning regulations. And it takes the first part of the existing state definition that I read a little bit earlier, and then it adds this last part that, because the definition itself is very long, it's actually maybe over a page.
Wow.
I don't want to have all of that in there, but I don't want to start to delete parts of it. So we have this kind of catch-all in here about referring back to the statute, so I think that will protect us. And again, we're allowing for that definition to create some consistency here. Just wanted you guys to see that. This is Part B of our proposed text amendment, is to add this new definition. And again, Part A was to replace this section here to allow no distance. And with that, I think, are there any questions?
I'm just looking at it, shall have no sleeping accommodations for the public.
And that wouldn't be,
I'm just,
yeah,
in a cafe? Right.
yeah, I think they're trying to make clear that you can't, create some kind of,
Oh, I think it's okay because you just can't do it. That's fine. I just was kind of thinking, well, that's kind of a strange thing to say, but we
yeah.
cover all the bases, good. Possible bases. Possible scenarios.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to have a kitchen, but they can,
Correct, yes.
which is
And what were the bathroom requirements again?
two.
And that's a state requirement, but it was
Yeah.
2 with a potential waiver,
With a waiver?
yeah.
ADA or no?
I'm not really sure, that's a state thing, that's a state, requirement, and I actually don't know, about that
Well,
at
I
all.
would
I think so, right?
At least one has to be ADA.
Right, so there's.
I would think the building code would kick in and
Right, at
there'd
that
be a
point.
requirement on that.
Right, that's gonna be a John Egan thing.
Yeah.
So, and back to Commissioner Kanada's point, this would allow, our new definition would allow for no kitchen at all. But it would allow, from there up to, a very like rudimentary kitchen. It could be that you're microwaving nachos or something like that, and you need a sink and some area to cut and, cool food or whatever. But it could be anywhere from no kitchen to,
Full
a
kitchen.
basic level kitchen. So that really opens it up for all of those uses that don't have a true kitchen.
So you mentioned that the health department would have some regulation or some oversight. How does that part work? It's not really under us, but
Yeah, so they would review this, let's see, they would need a special permit, so they'd be part of the review. And the health department would review them just like any other applicant and provide comment to this commission if they had concerns. So you would see it all in your packet, whether they're on the right track or they're missing information or there's real true concerns
And
there, yeah.
I could just add to that, this morning, when Andrew and I were going over all of this, we spoke with the health director, and we had questions of how she would insert her regulations into what you as regulators are looking at and approving. And the question came up was, we've established that they don't necessarily have to have a kitchen, but there has to be a food preparation area. So I asked the absurd scenario question about where could that food preparation area be? Is it exclusive area? And the health director said, as long as it met her code, it could be right next to the office. It could be right here. This could be the food prep area right here.
It could all be one room.
As long as there were the proper amount of sinks and washable surfaces, it's not a designated specific exclusive area. So, if you're thinking of different types of scenarios of a venue where somebody might do something, as long as they had, as Andrew said, the sinks and the prep area, they met the
Yeah,
code.
so I feel like there's a lot of flexibility there for people without a full kitchen.
Excellent. I do know that in order to get a liquor permit, you have to have police, you have to have fire, you have to have health officer, you have to have building official all sign off on your, and zoning. So there are several levels of inspection that occur before you get your liquor permit.
And
At the state level.
we would also have the ability to put stipulations on that special permit too, if we had specific concerns. So,
Yep. No,
Question.
This got it all together, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of off the wall question, but a food preparation area, would that even include a food truck adjacent to the structure that we're talking about?
They could do a food truck as to fulfill the requirement of having food on premise.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure exactly of all the, particulars, but they could do that.
Okay.
But I think also our health person has to review and look at that food truck.
And she absolutely, yeah, she
Yeah,
will.
so,
Well, she actually permits them.
right,
That's part of being the ability to have a food truck in Cromwell, is to get a permit from her as well as the police.
Yeah. So everything will be reviewed by all the proper departments, including us, and we'll see
Great.
their comments.
so now what do you need, Andrew?
Well, if we're all in agreement, I think that we can schedule this as a public hearing for May 19th, according to your proposed motion. And we've got two other applications that are proposed tonight to be scheduled, accepted and scheduled.
But what do you need from us as far as the text that has to go to the COG?
Well, I would take care of that. Are you guys okay with the text as it is, as
That's-
I've proposed
yeah.
it?
Do we
Okay.
need a motion to say that we are in
Sure,
agreement
it might
with
be
the
helpful
text?
just to be official here.
All right, so I'll make a motion to accept the text as Andrew has generated for this discussion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then as part of new business, we'll schedule that along with the other two, if you want to go ahead and read those off.
So we'll do that when we get to accept and schedule.
Yeah, that's actually the next item.
We're in.
Okay.
So I put it right there so that we could schedule it right after this discussion. It's a little out of place from the usual.
No,
Okay, so that's the first thing that's on the proposed motions schedule list.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to schedule a text amendment application for a public hearing, application 26-10. I move to schedule application 26-10, application for a text amendment to section 4.3.C.4.2 of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations to revise distance requirements and definition of a cafe related to alcohol beverages and associated uses. Town of Cromwell Planning and Zoning Commission is the applicant for a public hearing at a regularly scheduled meeting on May 19th, 2026.
second, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And do you want to do the next two?
My mic is getting heated up. If you guys wouldn't mind, if you can try and remember to try and state your name after your second,
yeah,
because
sorry.
we don't have the video on, and it would be very helpful for the recording, just to clarify who said it in the future. Thank you.
Okay, who seconded that?
Andrew,
Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay.
I gotta remember to turn my mic on, sorry. Okay, next, I'll make a motion to schedule a rezoning application for public hearing, application 26-11. I move to schedule application 26-11, application to rezone from the right-of-way to A25, single-family residential at 110 Willowbrook Road, Town of Cromwell, Planning and Zoning applicant. Nalidia Espinal is the owner, for a public hearing at a regularly scheduled meeting on May 19th.
Excuse me, as a point of order, did you read A25, is that correct?
Yeah, it should be R.
Should be R25.
I'm sorry, R25.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay, who is going to second that, please give your name?
Second, Andrew Holt.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And lastly, get these glasses off. Motion to schedule special permit application for a public hearing, application 26-12. I move to schedule application 26-12, application for a special permit to sell alcoholic beverages per section 4.3.C.3.1.C of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations at 72 West Street. Tribhovan Patel, applicant, Sheikh Ali, owner, for a public hearing at the regularly scheduled meeting of May 5th, 2026.
Second, Andrew Holt.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and so.
All right, so we're moving on to the state housing bill, and this has moved very quickly. So quickly that basically everything that's happened has happened between the last meeting and now, which was 2 weeks. So I'm gonna try and fill you in quickly. A got a couple of points here to go over before we get to the PowerPoint. So our COG, the Lower Connecticut River Valley Council of Governments, has selected IMEG, which is a great national firm. They were formerly FHI Studio, and they are going to be assisting member towns with updates to their zoning regulations as a result from the bill related to the zoning aspect. I worked with IMEG the last few years. They're a great consultant, and I'm very proud of our COG for getting these services for us, because I don't know what other towns are doing who don't have a consultant, because there's not many of them out there who are doing this work. I know other towns who actually spent money out of pocket to get IMEG, so we're lucky to have them. The changes from the bill that are impacting zoning are going into effect on July 1st. More on that in a moment. So our COG offered this to all 13 towns, and you had to opt in. We had a virtual webinar, and Alice was on it, I was on it. It was on a Wednesday night. I don't know if Mike Canada was on it. He might, okay. And they said, you got to let us know by Friday whether you're opting in. So it was that quick. I don't think I got an email about it. But of course we opted in. That's something we definitely want to do, and I consulted with Alice about that. We were required to send them our zoning regulations the following Friday. We did that. And then immediately after, Alice and I attended a virtual kickoff meeting with IMEG for the zoning regulation changes. That was on March 31st. So this has all happened since our last meeting. And that's why you may feel like this is a lot of new information, but it all happened just as quickly with me, and I'm giving it to you, firsthand. So now we had that kickoff meeting with IMEG, and they produced an initial report on how the zoning changes would affect us. And they based that analysis of the existing zoning districts off the mission statement and the list of uses. So we're going to get into that more in a minute. Flipping to our packet, I'm going to flip through this. There'll be some slides we spend more time on than not, because it is kind of a lot of information, and I'm going to do my best to summarize it and answer questions. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, because you could go down tons of rabbit holes with this, but essentially the state is imposing changes on us, and zoning changes. The way that I would break this housing bill down and that it affects us is two parts. We have the zoning changes, which is happening immediately. Those are effective July 1st. That's what we're working on tonight. And then we have the housing growth plan, and that is in like July 2027. So that's out there a ways. We're setting that aside for now, and we're going to focus on zoning tonight, and our work with IMEG, who's hopefully going to provide us some suggested text amendments to comply with the bill. So, oops, sorry. Go 100, okay. So this is the team here, River COG. Our COG representative is Eliza Lopresti, and she is an ASU graduate, just like me. I had to throw that in there. The lower picture is Francisco Gomes. I've worked with him over the last few years. He's really great to work with, and I'm excited to work with him again. So, about the services IMEG's providing. They're helping communities comply with the Public Act 25-1, the requirement of transit community middle housing or mixed-use development on all lots zoned for commercial or mixed use by summary review approval. I'm going to break that down in a moment, so don't get confused. The removal of parking minimums for residential development with 16 or fewer units. And parking requirements and parking needs assessment allowance for residential development with 17 or more units. I'm gonna go to this slide here. So there's a lot of jargon in here that I think is kind of makes it hard for the, normal person to understand. I would just call this transit community middle housing development. Just think of it as middle housing. And middle housing means a residential building containing 2 to 9 units. And it's not limited to a townhouse, a duplex, or any of those types. So it's 2 to 9 units in one single residential building. That is the new middle housing that is allowed. And that is allowed in any district that is zoned, is it commercial or, I just got mixed up, I'm sorry. All of a sudden, I got nervous. Zoned commercial or mixed use, okay. So, so that's middle housing, 2 to 9 units allowed in a single building on a commercial or mixed use zone. Mixed use development is a development containing both residential and non-residential uses in a single building. That's the key part, is it needs to be within a single building. When this first came out, I had fears that, somebody's gonna build a 2 to 9 unit development on the outskirts of the Stop and Shop Plaza, but it has to be within the same building. So I think that really protects us. Summary review is essentially what I would call like as of right, and as of right is you're approving it according to the zoning regulations. Does it meet the zoning regulations? Does it meet the requirements? That's all that you're looking at. When we're looking at a special permit, we're looking at kind of the health, safety, and all that type of stuff. Does it fit? But for summary review, it's just according to the zoning regulations. Does it meet the setbacks? Does it meet the lot size, frontage requirements? And the key here is, so there's no discretionary action by our board. There's no public hearing held. There's no variance. There's no special permit. It's just by the regulations. So there's really no discretionary action or decision by our board on those particular types of development. The added thing for summary review that's important is, well, maybe I'm contradicting myself, that is as of right. That is typically as of right. The important part with summary review is it adds one other thing to meeting the zoning regulations. And that does it meet, what does it say? Public health and safety will not be substantially impacted. That's the last sentence. So it's almost like the test of a special permit. If we truly had, a true health and safety concern that's legitimate, something from the fire marshal, the health director, then we can deny it on that basis. So it's like as of right, but also does it affect public health and safety? And that is summary review. So what is allowed? A 2 to 9 unit multifamily building or a mixed use development on a single lot. Where is it allowed? Any lot zoned for commercial or mixed use development. Is a permit required? No more than summary review approval, which is a site plan application, and it would come before the commission. So the commission would look at it and does it meet the requirements of the zoning regulations? Or is there a serious health and safety concern that's documented in some way that we feel comfortable denying it on? Now that's only for 2 to 9 units. So you get to 10 units, we could go to special permit. And so I feel like the changes here for zoning are really the 2 to 9 units on commercial and mixed use. It's the removal of parking requirements for up to 16 units. And I guess the third part, you can almost kind of piggyback on the last part, is the traffic needs assessment, something like that. We're going to get into that more in a moment. I'm sorry, this is probably very confusing. I'm doing my best to break this down. That's an important point. And so I'm going to get into that as we get further into this. But let me see if I can just, sorry guys. Give me 1 second. I want to look at our regulations if I can find them. I did not bring them on my flash drive. Well, I want to have them up on the screen so everybody could see them. It's the one thing I forgot, of course. And I apologize if you're having trouble with our new website. We've had a couple of glitches in there because everything transferred over from the old system like automatically. So we're working to fix it. We're going to get there. Sorry. Okay. So these are the purpose statements of each of our sections. This is what they look like. Purpose here. And each zoning district has a purpose statement. And that kind of sets the table for what it is. It's not everything because it doesn't prescribe the uses, but it gives you a general sense of what the purpose of the district is. It's important because a lot of the basis of these zone changes will be, is it considered commercial or is it considered industrial? Now, I guess we'll get into that more in a little bit, but our consultant is looking at these purpose statements for each zone and determining whether or not it's commercial or mixed use or not. And so the districts that they've identified as, you know, commercial and mixed use are the ones that are susceptible to the zoning regulation changes. And that's in their report. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But I just wanted to show you an example of what this is. It is important to have a purpose statement, in my opinion. You know, I've seen a case where an aggressive attorney came in during a zoning regulation rewrite and wanted to get rid of it altogether because it would be to his benefit. These are important, and the way that we frame our zoning district through the purpose statement will say a lot about how we determine whether or not those units, residential units, will be allowed. And one district in particular, I think we're going to kind of modify to further clarify that it's more deemed industrial. As it is right now, it may not be as strong, but we're going to make it stronger industrial, the purpose statement, to hopefully alleviate ourselves of being subject to that 2 to 9 unit requirement. Okay, so back to this is the assumptions page from the consultant. I do feel like this is important because there's a lot of important facts in here. Industrial zones are exempted. Not to get down a side track, but there is pending litigation. I can't even imagine this being opened up to industrial zones too. But forget about that for now. It is not open in industrial zones. Mixed use development can be allowed instead of multifamily development, or both can be allowed. So at the kickoff meeting with the consultant, we were looking at each zone and we were determining whether or not we were going to allow mixed use or multifamily. And I'll go over all those districts with you in the report a little further down. Mixed-use development is also subject to the 9-unit limit for summary review. So therefore, 10 or more units could be prohibited or a special permit exception could be required. Mixed use or multifamily development can be limited to 1 building per lot. That I think is also pretty important, like I talked about earlier with the Stop and Shop scenario. We wouldn't want people coming in and adding, new buildings to properties in order to make it a mixed use, unless it were appropriate. And so a site plan application and commission approval requirement will satisfy summary review, provided there is no public hearing requirement. So we can't do a public hearing. We can't do a special permit, anything like that. We've got to go by the regulations and does it affect the health and safety. And that's only for this 2 to 9 unit residential carve out. It's not for everything. Lots in PADs, planned area developments, floating zones, or other special districts would be subject to the requirement if permitting commercial or mixed uses. We don't have any PADs here. We do have floating zones, and on the record, that's something that I need to discuss more with our consultant. I've looked at them, but we've discussed them briefly, but I need to dig further into that, and particularly the institutional development district and whether it would be more appropriate to have multifamily there. Affordability, inclusionary housing requirements can be applied. That was a surprise to me. I'm not exactly sure how that works. It's very interesting. I'm going to need more information about how exactly we can apply that. But apparently we can apply like the 10% affordable housing requirement to this zoning change. It's very interesting, so I need more information on that. Development would also be subject to village district requirements and local historic district review and approval. We do not have any village districts. We don't have a local historic district, but we do have requirements for design review in the downtown Cromwell zone. So if you build something in the downtown Cromwell zone, you have to submit to us a rendering of the building. And I believe properties in the downtown Cromwell zone would still be subject to that design requirement. Sorry, having trouble here. So that was kind of the 2 to 9 unit being allowed now into commercial and mixed use zones. This next part is about the parking aspect, and basically we cannot reject an application for a residential development solely on the basis that the development fails to conform with any requirement for off-street motor vehicle parking spaces. Now, we could deny them for some other reason, but it just can't be parking. And that only applies up to 16 units. There's more nuances to this parking thing as we get going, or as we get further into it. So there's this other part here in black after the red part. Unless such officer or commission finds that a lack of such parking spaces will have a specific adverse impact on public health and safety that cannot be mitigated through approval conditions that have no substantial adverse impact on the viability of such development. I think if we had maybe, somebody from the fire department, police department with a real serious concern, maybe that's something we could hang our hat on. We might have to consult our town attorney to see if we're on solid ground there. But if there's serious public health and safety concerns, apparently, that could be grounds for denial. So we'll take it as it comes. A municipality may require a minimum number of off-street motor vehicle parking spaces for a residential development that contains more than 16 dwelling units. Provided any such municipality shall allow the proposed developer of such development to submit to the zoning enforcement officer, planning commission, or combined, a parking needs assessment that conforms with the requirements of a subsection of this section. So for more than 16 units, there is now this state requirement. I wish the slides were more in order for my presentation, but when you're above 16 units now, there's a standard parking requirement, and that is 1 space for a studio or a 1-bedroom, or 2 spaces for a 2-bedroom or greater. That's it. That's the maximum. And here's the kicker. So if the developer submits a parking needs assessment with a lower number, we would be required to take that number. My understanding is that parking needs assessment needs to be done by a licensed traffic professional. That's what I was told by our consultant. And we may want to put that language in our zoning regulations, and even go so far as to say, that our commission could require the applicant to pay for, our own traffic consultant to testify. We could have the 2 of them testify. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, and maybe we just want to clarify, it also applies to the parking needs assessment, but that would be important if we get somebody who comes in and just says, this is the number, that we can ask questions and we can require another professional to verify what they're saying.
It might be under special permit, which is not applicable to this.
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
So now you have these 2 people saying that you don't need at the parking, someone says yes, you do, whatever it is. Who are they appearing before?
What's that for?
And who?
They're appearing before you for the Planning and Zoning Commission. You're determining between the 2 consultants which one is more accurate, and I believe that you have the right to choose whoever you believe. I have to verify that, but I've heard something along the lines of that. I have to double check the exact language, but I believe you have the authority to. I'll have to double check. I can look into that. Bruce, could you write that down for me? Thank you.
Otherwise, we just say, yes, you're gonna pay for our reviewer, and they're gonna go along with us, and you're out the door.
Yeah, and I'll look into that further, but at least we'll have something. I think that we would have some protection in that scenario. So, yeah, we'll see. So the parking regulations will have to be amended to remove parking minimums for residential development with 16 or fewer units, at a requirement of 1 space for each studio or 1-bedroom, and 2 per 2-bedroom or more. And that's for 17 or more units. And then the last part, add a provision allowing for an applicant provided parking needs assessment for development with 17 or more units, allowing the amount of parking needed as identified by the assessment if lower than the required parking.
So that means that when you have people coming in, building all this stuff, you only have to have it for 1-bedroom, 2-bedrooms, and no company.
Only 17 or more units. Now, here's the kicker with this.
You don't have any extra that you have for visitors.
Yeah. And, along the lines of that, it's interesting that the parking has been so loosened, the requirements, and I think back to when I was ZEO, and we had something about cars being parked in a suitable parking space that's paved, you know, legitimate parking space, and, you know, we might wanna think about adding that, because, if developers start developing under-parked sites and people start parking all over the place, then we, you know, we could have a problem that way, and we might be able to prevent that through our zoning regulations.
But how can we prevent that when we're not allowed on certain things to require parking? They can park in a tree, or they can park on the street.
Well, we need to clarify where exactly they can park. They can park in a parking space. They can't just park in the grass and, you know, within the setbacks and stuff like that. So if we clarify that, you know, they'll have to park in a parking spot, and so.
But on the other one, there's no parking.
That's correct, up to 17 units. Now, here's the kicker with this parking. We have the 17 units or 16 units or less. We have the 17 or more with the parking requirements. But we also have this point number 2 here. We have the ability to draft up to 2 conservation and traffic mitigation districts. Each district can be up to 4%, which would be combined 8% for the 2. And in this district, which would take the form of an overlay, we can allow up to that parking maximum again, that 1 and 2 space requirement. So I didn't really have a great idea of where these districts should go in our town. Maybe you guys have a feeling on this. I asked our consultant if he had any suggestions, and he felt that typically downtown was a good area to have it, so developers don't take advantage of it, or a commercial area. Our main commercial area, I think, is, you know, along Berlin Road, the highway business zone, maybe. So I guess long story short is the consultant's going to come up with a couple of options. As part of these services, they can draft up to 2 districts for us with the text, and give us the GIS data as well. So I will bring forward their suggestions, and we can discuss it. We could adopt it, we could amend it, we could not do anything with it. But at least we have the ability to do this in some locations in town. And we have a really good consultant who will help us do it. So if you guys have thoughts on where that should be, you know, maybe look at our zoning map and think about around town where might be appropriate, and we could discuss that at another meeting. That's a good question. Yeah, I'd have to do a calculation. Yeah. Unless it's really important to have it like in one particular small area like downtown. I don't know. Well, then, I mean, somebody could convert like an existing building in downtown to 9 units, or with no parking. It would be the same requirement. They're statutorily required to act before planning and zoning does, so they have to get their wetlands requirement, their permits and approvals. Nope, nope, and it does not. And if we have historic districts or any of that, that would remain. Special village districts, that would also remain. So those special requirements are still there. We just can't require a public hearing. It's got to be no discretion. It's got to be by the regulations. Now, we could change some things in our regulations, and that might be something we explore a little bit with the consultant. in order to achieve a more desirable type of development as a result. Yeah, and somebody who might take advantage of this new 2 to 9 unit in a way that we don't want to. So. Yeah, we'll get to the timeline, but essentially, I think we're gonna have everything from the consultant by the end of May. So we're gonna have to work as a commission here without the consultant to carry what we want forward, provide the referrals to the COGS and make the notices, and so when they have all of their proposed recommended changes at the end of May, we could decide to adopt all of those. And at that point, we could take it forward. We'd have to do our referral, and we'd be right on track, you know, with July 1st. Yeah, so we're you know, we might be a few days behind, but we're really close. Maybe a little bit earlier. I think they gave, well, there's a slide later in here with a timeline, but what I remembered was a May 31st date before. We may get it ahead of that, and if we're all in agreement that that's what we want and we carry it forward, then we're gonna need, you know, a little bit more than 30 days to do our referrals and notices to make the text amendment effective. So it may come a few days after July 1st. I don't think that's a huge deal, honestly. Potentially, you know, if we're all in agreement, or we could still be discussing this after July 1st if we're not in agreement and we want to keep working on it. We're not required to change this, but it would be to our advantage to obviously protect ourselves. No, we could. Am I missing something? Right. Yeah, but we're. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, and to be honest with you, I haven't had one person inquire about 2 to 9 units in town or anything like that. So I don't have developers, you know, on the line or knocking down the door, trying to take advantage of this yet. You know, maybe they'll all come out on July 1st, and I have no idea, but I hope not. And to be honest with you guys, you know, this could be done before July 1st if we're all in agreement. But if we are still working on it, then again, we're lucky to have a consultant where other towns don't, and I don't know what they're going to do. They're working on their own to try and come up with all these amendments. Yeah. Sure, and I think to Commissioner Comtois' point, you know, we might want to have a special meeting on this to focus on it and debate the merits of any proposed text or conservation districts and really get it figured out, and then we can be on track to get it approved as quick as we can. Yep. Right, and, yeah, I don't wanna drag our feet. I wanna make a good decision, you know, but not let this carry on and on and on and never make a decision. I mean, 'cause we could do that forever. This is a nice little graphic here for the summary of the new parking requirements on the left side. If you could just kind of block out the right side. Town-wide, starting at the bottom, 16 or fewer units, no parking requirement. 17 or more units town-wide, it's gonna be the 1 and 2 space requirement or the parking needs assessment that could be submitted by a developer. Moving to the right side, in the Conservation and Traffic Management District, it's the same requirement for 16 units or less, or 17 or more. For any units, it's the 1 and 2 space requirement or the parking needs assessment. So that's the beauty of the Conservation and Traffic Management District. If we want to have that in a place like, I kind of feel like downtown might be a good place. Because I don't know that we want to have a 9-unit building without parking, but maybe it would support it. You guys may know better than I do, because you've been here longer. Yep.
All parking numbers. At this point, July 1st, could Red Lion come to us and say, we don't want to do that anymore, we want to go by this?
Well, they're over 17 units, so they'd go to the 1 and 2, and I think theirs averaged out to something probably pretty similar. Just off the top of my head, I think, and I know, in my opinion, I don't think they'd want to come back in and go through all the trouble, and they spent so much money and time. Unless it was a true advantage, you know, to their parking. If they could really rework it and it all made financial sense for them.
Well, it would just be a matter of less pavement, a lot less pavement.
Yeah, but they still need a lot of parking probably to even market it. Yeah. So.
That's what I don't get with this whole thing, is this is so horrible, that from a marketing standpoint, how do you tell people, you got 2 stalls, and you got no place for anybody to park that's gonna ever come visit you unless they wanna park on the street or somewhere, or Uber in.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about visitor parking? I'm assuming we can't require it. That's a shame.
But if it doesn't exist, they're basically gonna have to Uber from home.
There's no place that they could go and say, like, AC as a parking, like, I told you.
No, but they might put 20 apartments and 5 parking spaces and charge extra for those 5 parking spaces and everyone else is SOL.
See, I mean, this makes sense in a city where you probably be part of a garage nearby. So you could park in the parking garage and walk to your friend's apartment on public transportation, but this makes 0 sense in Cromwell.
Well, it's for every town in Connecticut is facing the same thing we are right now.
So are you,
They're all subject to
are
this.
you saying that the affordable housing bill is making housing unaffordable?
I'm
Is that what you're
it's-
saying?
It's making it, certainly unattractive.
To your point about the parking costs?
Right.
All right, I'm gonna move on from this. So they're gonna provide a number of services. They're reviewing our regulations, and I'm excited to get, the draft amendments. I think they're working on them now, and maybe that's when we'll call a special meeting to review that. They also, like I talked about, would prepare a conservation and traffic mitigation district mapping and zoning text if we choose to do so. Here's the timeline. So we had our first virtual meeting on the 31st. We are here. They are working on drafting the amendments presently. And then you see the second virtual meeting would be May 4th through May 15th. I think that's where I'm gonna be going back to our consultant and giving them the feedback from this commission. So it would probably be important that we have a meeting to discuss all of that prior to that date. I will. Bruce, could you write that down for me? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Great, yeah, great point. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for reminding me about the room. It's all these little details that sometimes slips my mind. There's a lot going on. So we'll work on a special meeting if we can all agree upon that. The faster we agree upon it and get it to our commission to schedule for a public hearing, the faster it can be adopted. So depending on how much we like the proposed amendments, the draft amendments, I guess we'll determine how much we have to do. Yeah, at the latest, apparently, yes. And yeah. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is we've got to schedule a special meeting in there to get everyone to review and hopefully agree upon some proposed changes so that we can schedule it hopefully and do our referrals to be done by July 1st or as close to as we can. Yeah, so yeah, look for an email from me. We'll look into it. We'll figure out a date and we'll work towards that. You'll get an email from me letting you know about the special meeting. They will not be participating in the adoption process, so that is up to us here in the room and me as your staff member. So I hope that we can all agree upon that when the time comes and move on it. Well, yeah, but there's important text amendments that we need to make to protect ourselves. Yes. And really, you know, our zoning regulations would not be accurate with the new, if we didn't change it right now. You know, that you'd have all these requirements imposed, the 2 to 9 in the parking, but they're not prescribed in the regulations. So, you know, Bruce and I would be going to the regulations trying to work with a developer or an applicant, and you know, our heads would be spinning trying to figure out what means what without it actually laid out. There's not. So July 1st they become effective. The state does. We're not required per se to do anything. But the quicker we get it done, the quicker we protect ourselves. Yeah, with the July 1st date. So. Yeah, we're not required to make the changes, but it's definitely in our best interest. And it would be a nightmare for Bruce and I trying to read the regulations when they don't reflect what the new laws are. So, very important. They have a right. And so we would be scrambling, scratching our heads trying to figure out exactly what that means in each district, in each scenario. And even if they don't come forward with an application, we would spend a lot of time just working with them. So that would be problematic. That's a great question that I have no idea. I don't know the governor power. Well, the law is going to be the law. I don't know if the governor or anybody or the legislature or anybody has the, yeah, he could, I assume he could. I don't know if they have the power and the desire to, roll it back. Yeah, right. In a lot of towns and cogs and consultants are moving forward with this already, so I think it might be hard to pull it back at this point. And I think, you know, even the cogs have gotten funding potentially for this work, so yeah, it seems like it's just rolling along, and it might be hard to get it back in the bag.
The bill that comes from, that's been passed by the House and the Senate. He only has the power to veto the bill. That's all, and that's what happened the last time. If he doesn't sign it, it does not go into law.
But he already signed this.
No, he hasn't.
Yes, he has.
Exactly. Hasn't gone before them yet. They're still in session. They're still talking about it.
The housing bill has been passed and signed.
Right. I think they're talking about amendments to it, including allowing this 2 to 9 unit in an industrial, which is really bizarre.
But the bill does not have all of this stuff in it. This is what is coming up on the new bill.
Eesh.
I'm not that 100% involved or knowledgeable of the process.
I know that he didn't sign the bill.
He signed the second bill, yes,
Right,
he
but the
absolutely
second
did.
one, but this is now the third one, going up under the same thing.
I'm not sure of the process.
All right.
He did sign the second bill on that as well.
Right. But that's why they cut out a lot of consultants. They cut out,
All right, so we're going to get into the next part of this. That was just kind of the overview of the bill. The middle housing, the parking, the transit-oriented districts. And now we have the IMEG consultant report. So this is a report analyzing our existing regulations and where they stand in relation to the new requirements. Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Is that, well, is that okay? Okay. All right, good. I only got one packet tonight. You're rubbing it in. I'm sorry. My apologies. We're gonna get Ann a paper packet too.
I also printed it, so I have it as well.
So like we talked about earlier, the consultant went through our regulations and they went through each zoning district and they read the mission statement and they looked at the list of uses and identified the ones that they felt were susceptible to being either commercial or mixed use. Now, what we did on the call was we went through each district. This was only an hour-long call, and tried to determine whether or not each district we should allow either mixed use or allow multifamily. And I'm going to go through each one of them here. So, downtown Cromwell district. Give me just a moment, everybody. Oops, where are we? Downtown Cromwell district is obviously our downtown. It's shown in yellow here. It's kind of a smaller area. My personal and professional feeling was that we should not allow multifamily in this zone. We should allow for mixed use. Because we want to keep some semblance of mixed use in our downtown. We want to be able to keep the commercial or office uses and not make it exclusively residential. I've seen a lot of developers in the past few years just want to come in and convert commercial or office to residential. It's the hottest thing, and they'll do it if you give them the chance to do it. And I would hate to see our downtown kind of susceptible to that. So I'd like to, I think personally that we should keep it mixed use and not convert it, obviously, to entirely multifamily so that we can preserve and maintain office and, you know, mixed uses in our downtown. It's appropriate. Um, I think they would at least have to be grandfathered, if not, I mean, they would at least be grandfathered, if not potentially conforming, depending on the, maybe like the parking wouldn't be.
Railroad station, Cromwell Pasta Pizza, open lot, transmission place, then there's a house that I believe is multifamily. Yeah, Quality, so next, one building south of Quality Automotive, possibly two buildings. No, then you get to the setback lines.
Bruce, can you write this down?
Way to the corner, there's another building that I believe is.
Could you write down his question?
Is multifamily. And then when you go around the corner on South Street, there are a couple of more houses that are multifamily.
I'm having Bruce write that down for me so that I can talk with the consultant about it. It made me have other thoughts. You know, what about other site plans that we've approved with parking? You know, designated parking on there. I'm assuming those are non-conforming now. It's an interesting concept.
I know there are quite a number of multifamily houses down there.
Okay, and without looking at the regs, you know, I'll have to dig deeper into that. You know, they would have to be grandfathered at a minimum, if not still potentially conforming.
Also on Wall Street, while you're looking at it, Bruce, on Wall Street, there are several houses there that are multifamily as well as Pleasant Street. Right. Wall Street's not.
We don't have our streets on our map, unfortunately.
When you say multi, you mean more than two?
Yes.
Okay.
Wall Street.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have our streets on the map. That might be something we want to look into down the line. We don't have the streets listed on our zoning map, and that might be something we want to look into when we do some revisions in the future. Because it's hard to tell where you're at exactly.
I believe that's Wall Street right
So
there.
multifamily really is
Left or right?
3+,
It is, yep.
where two-family is just 2.
Duplex, yep.
Okay.
On Main Street.
According to Bruce, yeah.
No, I was just looking at the back, no.
Oh, okay.
By definition, right.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, there's some like almost exclusively residential
School Street as
lots,
well.
it seems, in the downtown Cromwell zone, I think. So that's interesting. And they do have that design requirement for that zone. I will look further into that, but those residential lots, you know, if we had the traffic parking mitigation district there, they would still be required to have some parking requirement. If we don't put a district there, there would be no requirement for up to 16 units.
Right.
So we might want to consider protecting our downtown.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and I wonder, is that for, yeah. That might be the most important one, I think, to protect. And there's also,
Right, but like, you can write some language in to protect one area and use the overlay district in another area.
we've got this commercial area along Berlin. I don't think that's gonna meet 4%. But we might want to consider our more heavily commercial areas and see how that pencils out. Can we get to 4% and cover that? So if you guys have strong feelings about that, if you want to go home and think about it, you know, and drive around town before our special meeting and think about your thoughts as in regards to requiring parking in a certain area of town. The so there's no parking up to 16 units. Oh, I am not sure. Okay, so we could do 2 districts, 4% each. They could be contiguous up to 8%. So, oh, that's all that they've given us. So we have that 8% maximum to work with from the state. Yeah, we do have of course, the northern tier, right? And that's a big area, so I'm not sure. Okay, so to your point, this is a great point, everybody. So we discussed this with the consultant. I think it's kind of brilliant. The big BP business park area up here. What we are considering what we would like to do is to reconfigure our mission statement for the business park to make it more industrial oriented. And that way we would skirt the rule for opening this up for 2 to 9 units for commercial, because it wouldn't be considered commercial or mixed use, it would be industrial. And so that's the direction that we're leaning right now. And they do have a very good attorney on board, Peter Olson. I've also worked with him separately of IMEG from the last few years. I've had him on call, and he's awesome. So they're doing this on behalf of all the other towns and even in our cog and also more. So I feel confident in what they're proposing. But yeah, so the business, and I hope everyone understands that if we revamp our mission statement and make it more industrial oriented, then it's precluding us from having to be considered a commercial or mixed use. Right. So yeah, well, we could take a deeper dive into that, and that might be one that's, you know, more important to us too. So this is the one that's online and was most recently recorded with the clerk. I think it's maybe like 2 years old. There's another one that's popping up online right now that is the older version, and that's a result of our website transferring over. Yeah, and I apologize. It took all of these documents, I don't know where they came from, and like transferred them to the forefront of our pages. It kind of like populated on its own our new pages, and so I have to go in there manually and fix everything. So I'll be working on that too. No, you know, just this. It's I think if you go to Planning and Zoning Commission on our page, and to the left side there's some quick links there. It says there's some quick links, yes, and there's a zoning map. I think it says like new 2025, something like that. The problem is we have one link somewhere and another link somewhere. I think the good link right now is on Planning and Zoning Commission, but after talking about this so much, I just need to go fix this tomorrow. So I will do that. Back to the report. So we talked about downtown Cromwell. That may be a good place for parking restrictions. I certainly think it's a place to have mixed-use development rather than exclusively multifamily. Local business district is another district they felt would be open to this 2 to 9 unit. And our local business district is very small. It's this like tealish green colored area. There's a few areas in town with them. They're not very high intensity, and I believe they're mostly built out. So I think this is more appropriate to allow mixed use than exclusively residential. There's not many areas of these in town. I don't think that anybody could do much with these, but you know, maybe if they're able to add in another 2 units in an existing building somewhere, then they could do that. I just don't know logistically how each scenario might work, and if they even realize that. I don't know that they even realize that, but they may. So that's the purpose of the local business district is to provide neighborhood shopping zone where retail business or service establishments supply commodities or perform services to the daily needs of the residential neighborhood. So it's a lower intensity supporting zone that we want to keep some semblance again of commercial in there to make it mixed use. We wouldn't want it to be exclusively residential. We have enough of those zones, I think. Moving on to the highway business district. That encourages high quality business development along key transportation routes in Cromwell. I don't know how you guys feel about this. Our highway business district is entirely on the west side of town in this lighter green along Berlin Road. There's a lot of floodplain, there's a lot of wetlands around here. I don't believe there's much available land to actually develop in there. But I think it's a key commercial corridor, and I wouldn't want to see it go exclusively residential. You know, I think we want to keep some mixed use in the highway business zone as well. Yeah, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of floodplain, there's a lot of wetlands. I mean, there's not much to.
I think they looked into that, and the property owner thought after he ran the numbers, it wasn't viable.
I understand that's the thought of the day. I'm just saying that was considered.
It's a possibility, right?
For building out. Now, they have a huge parking lot, but maybe somebody would put something in the middle of that parking lot, which is hardly ever used. I mean, I'm just bringing it up as a space that is available for
That's where they should have put, Starbucks.
So I feel kind of strongly that we want to keep mixed use again and keep commercial in this area. It's a major traveled road, and I'm sure that we get a lot of economic benefit from commercial uses out there. Back to the report, we have the business park district, which we just talked about. The current mission statement is the purposes of this zone is to provide areas primarily for planned general office and business park developments and related services which will be compatible with and serve as a transition to nearby residential areas and will promote a quiet, clean environment. Development in this zone should emphasize a high level of architectural and landscape excellence. The intent is to create an attractive business environment. This is not very industrial oriented right now, but a lot of the uses kind of, I believe, meet that spirit. I do really appreciate the high level quality that we have in our business park, and I'd like to see that remain. I made that clear with our consultant. So if we can tailor this more industrial natured, but keep the high level of architectural, building, that would be my goal.
When are you
We'd have to take a look at the uses. So, I mean, this is a particular one that's more important than most, I think, probably to us, considering the amount of vacant land and potential to either go to industrial or to allow this to be opened up to 2 to 9 units. We can create a new zone as part of this.
Where are you gonna put 'em? Well, no, I'm just saying.
But you could have light industrial, depending on how you define light industrial. The northern tier could be business park and light industrial.
So some distinction between heavier and lower impact industrial.
Create another industrial zone, call it light industrial, call it whatever you want.
If you wanna look at Rockyville,
But,
how they
but
have their.
get industrial in there somehow so that would exempt it from.
It's a good thought. Now, would you think that all of this BP would be subject to a light industrial? Okay, I'm just asking. And I just want to think about the uses because we may have property owners who are protective if they are, in theory, I guess, downzoning. If they're losing the ability to have more uses, they may, have an opinion on that. But something to think about. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to, there's gotta be a back door.
Right, right.
Back door would be, have two industrial zones, heavy and light.
I would think that I'd like to look at what Rocky Hill is on Brook Road, because that is different businesses in there, and yet they are, back and, Burgess is in there.
Right, but do they call that industrial, or do they call that business park?
That's what I have to look at on their zoning map to see what do they call that, as well as, like Tipco and all of that.
Yeah, whatever they call it, you have to look at their definitions of what's allowed within
Right,
whatever they call
because
it.
they have a lot of different things, and yet it looks nice.
But that's not to say that this new housing bill may not split that wide open.
Well,
Right.
You don't know what they're calling it, and you don't know how this bill would affect their zone, whatever.
Yeah. And who knows what they're doing. They don't have IMEG because they're not in our cog. So I'd be curious. But they're in the same boat. They're probably looking at their mission statement and saying, could 2 to 9 units now be allowed in this zone? So
The way I can think of is to come up with a different
great point, and we will explore that. We'll thanks, Bruce, and we'll come to you with some information at the special meeting.
right, did you hear though that they're looking at industrial maybe?
I did. Yeah, it's in the PowerPoint. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. I can't imagine a world where we.
Business park right now, is that susceptible to putting in multifamily units, or is that like?
I would not think so. I would not think so. And on the surface, who thinks of residential units in a business park? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if we don't have to change it, then. Right, like, but if we do have to change it, we have to.
But you could probably make an argument based off that mission statement that it is commercial. And I think that's where we might want to carefully craft a mission statement that protects us better.
Right, then we're just, then we're just opening the door for more industrial, and then on top of it, we can still be susceptible to residential as well.
I don't know if you're opening the door to more more,
If you zone it industrial,
well,
or would you?
I think to Michael's point, he was looking at the industrial and then splitting it as a heavy and a light. So one that's maybe a cleaner and more compatible with residential.
Yeah, I would need definitely a clarification on what light industrial is, because right now it would
Yeah.
Would be a step down from industrial, so light industrial, you know, I don't know if that's.
This is a question for the experts.
Yeah, and I don't.
understand your point.
Right, and I don't.
There's so much that's still unknown.
Exactly, I don't want us to be closing one door just to open up another giant one that just makes things
We
worse,
already
so.
have those
Right.
snakes out already,
They're already there.
Moving on to the mixed use district, which is a floating zone. Well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Mixed use allows for the mix of uses, including the concept of live, work, and play opportunities on the same thing. So you can live, work, and play on the same development. You have all the different types of uses within reach that you need to live a happy life. Like I said, Bruce, if you could write this down for me, I've got to dig into floating zones more, and our actual definition for how a floating zone is applied, because that's going to become important as part of this bill. We have, as far as I can tell right now, we have one mixed use zone, and that is the 100 Berlin property in the piece with the trail on it. In theory, other developers could come in and develop a mixed use development. And that's where I want to take a look with our consultant about our language about how floating zones are applied for. Well, that one's, that one's developed, so we know that that's taken care of. So we don't have any vacant mixed use, but we want to make sure that a developer is not going to come in and take advantage of a floating zone and now building a mixed use somewhere. Something we need to consider. But it's already mixed use, so we allow mixed use. I'll just take a further look at that. So in theory, allows like some flexibility for a developer. Instead of having to come in and do a rezone and then all their other stuff, they can just come in and apply right away. They kind of skip like one of the public hearing processes, and it kind of, in theory, makes it easier for them because they can just come in and build right to the development standards.
like right after July 1st, we're not gonna have public hearing, per se.
Right.
So,
So.
I thought we were having public hearings on numbers greater than that threshold.
Right, yeah,
still
so, 17 units or more? Is that what it, no, wait, I'm sorry, I'm confusing parking and units now. It would be 10 units or more, we could do a special permit. And,
That's a special permit.
yes,
But I'm just asking, right, but I'm just asking why, what is the advantage or disadvantage of having these things called, you have a zone here and then you have this other thing that floats above the zone?
no, you're confusing the things. So, a floating zone is, it's a piece of property that's another zone, and it doesn't turn into the floating zone, the new zone, until you file an application. And then you just take advantage of that zone. What you're talking about is an overlay. And that's what these traffic mitigation districts are actually going to be. They're going to be an overlay. Our aquifer right now, our aquifer protection area is an overlay. And simply an overlay is you have all of your existing zoning with all the uses and all the requirements. An overlay just puts additional requirements on top. So it happens a lot throughout the country with like historic districts. Then you have like a design review layer. Here in Cromwell, we have our aquifer protection layer. Every property under the APA still has their existing zoning, but the overlay zone just adds additional requirements, that's all. So the floating zone is that it is not the future zone, but you're applying for a zone to make it the new floating zone. I'm sorry, it's a little confusing, but this has existed here. I don't know how long you guys have had it.
But should we have something called floating zone in our regulations?
It's a good question, and especially in light of this legislation. And that's where I want to talk with our consultant about, should we have a floating zone, or should we just modify the language about how floating zones are applied for? What might be the better route? I'm not quite sure, but the floating zone does make me a little nervous. You know, not so much the mixed use zone, because that's clearly mixed use. But something I've got to look into more. Yeah. In particular, the floating zones. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's a little, yeah, it is a little vague and confusing. Right. So maybe we want to look at that. So we went through the districts that they identified. You know, like for instance, we have the commercial billboard district. It's called commercial, but it's really industrial. We have self-storage facility, we have billboard. Those are the two allowed uses. So interestingly enough, that should not be subject to these changes, even though it's called commercial. I think we have another zone or two that's like that, where it has commercial or industrial in the name, but it's not really reflected that way. Right.
But if it's called, and it's in our zoning regulations, that it is a commercial zone, and we did, the lawyer did say is that the commercial part of it is what that zone is. Even those houses are now.
Yeah, I think the only commercial aspect is like the off-premise, you know, billboard advertisements that people are seeing, but the billboard and the
So why would, self-storage be an industrial thing? I think that's more commercial,
no,
no?
it's more. It would be more industrial than commercial. Yeah, yeah, it's more industrial natured use. It would be found primarily in industrial zones rather than commercial zone. It could be in commercial zones, you know, but it's more appropriate actually in an industrial zone, and that's where it's primarily found. Sorry. We got to get a microphone installed over here. I feel too far away from you guys too. I'll ask about it. I've been doing a lot of asking lately, so.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's working so far.
I was gonna say, you've gotten farther.
Thank you.
Farther than a lot over the years.
Yeah, good to hear. I hope more to come. So I guess just kind of continuing on, that was really the big part of it, was analyzing each zone and which ones were susceptible. They've come up with a chart here of the different uses and where they're currently allowed. You see the asterisk here for the DCD, the downtown Cromwell zone. There's the requirement for the architectural rendering. And apparently in the LB zone as well. I did not realize that. This is the status of our existing parking requirements. I believe it's a commission decision for mixed use. We're currently at 2 spaces per dwelling unit for multifamily, so that'll have to be slightly revised to account for the bedrooms. And further on that point, I'm realizing that Bruce and I, during our reviews and our plan reviews, that we're going to have to start asking applicants on their plans how many bedrooms they have, because we're going to be basing our parking off of that in a lot of instances. So it'll become more part of the norm, more part of the normal zoning data chart on the site plans where it's applicable. So I would hope that we do already.
What's a den, walkout basement?
Good point. Bruce, if you could take a note for me on bedroom definition.
I believe that we're using, I'm not sure if we have a definition, I'm checking, but I believe we say that if it's capable of having a door to close off the room, it could be considered to be used as a bedroom.
It's probably based primarily off the building code, I would think.
Doesn't have to have a closet.
And I know that's a code that the health department uses for septic analysis, is if the room is capable of having a door on it, a standard size pedestrian door as opposed to a double door, doorway, then it would be considered, it could be used as a bedroom, even if it doesn't have the door on it.
Yeah, I can tell you this, when I built my house, I have a room that I specifically on my plans put as personal office, and they made me size my septic system for 4 bedrooms.
Oh my
rather
gosh.
than- My house is a 3-bedroom house, but they made me size my septic system for 4 bedrooms with the thought that that office could become a bedroom if I chose to eliminate it as an office, the use as an office.
It's probably, they got burned so many times, I'm sure that they probably just made it a rule to get ahead of it.
He said 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, that's tough for you though.
I didn't argue, it went from 1,000-gallon tank to a 1,200-gallon tank. That was the difference. And a little bit more leaching fields.
Our ADU, accessory dwelling unit parking requirement actually appears to match up pretty well with the new regulation. Well, in retrospect, actually, maybe not, because it's only 1 unit, so I guess it doesn't apply. And then we don't have any current parking assessment requirement, obviously. Yeah. Various definitions here. If you're interested, mixed use, different things. We apparently don't have an affordable housing requirement currently. Might be something we consider, because apparently we can require that in some form. So something to discuss at the special meeting. Bruce, if you could write that down. Bruce is my official note taker. I just realized that it might take me off topic if I have to write down too much, so I really appreciate you helping me out. Affordable housing requirement as part of the new changes. Apparently we can require that to some degree, and so yeah, so I want to find out a little bit more about how that works, and then I could bring that forward to you guys to discuss if it's something we want to implement. And yeah, and I kind of feel that maybe we should, just on the surface, because we need to meet certain requirements, and when we get to this housing growth plan, which is the next step of the housing bill, we're going to be creating a plan that we have to look at if we're meeting the goals every 5 years. So after we implement it, it kind of becomes real that we need to start working towards those goals, and that might help us with the affordable housing. So
And then also, you're going to be taking a look at who's going to track the affordable housing unit? Who's gonna?
well, the state does.
No, to manage it, to make sure that the people that are coming in meet all of the qualifications.
We don't do that. The developer does that. Yeah, we don't handle that. They're required to do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, but they have to be, for affordable housing, to be counted, they have to be deed restricted.
But the landlord handles the register, it's not deed restricted, it's registered. You have to register it with the state, and you have to have someone, a staff person, have it set up where the registration is turned, all the information is governed by the state and turned over and reviewed by the state. But it's done
Yeah, at some point we'll get a list from the state of what they believe to be our, hasn't come up yet, but at some point it will. So, yep. So I'll have to, that'll be my first time taking care of it here. In my prior town, we were exempt, which was nice. We exceeded it. We were one of the few towns that did, luckily, in Bristol. So I didn't have to deal with it, which is very nice for planners. So that's that. We've gone through the report. I've given you an overview of the residential units, the middle housing, and the parking changes. Anybody have any comments, questions? That we've got some work to do on our end to now. We got a lot of work to do and to schedule a special meeting in short order, and then all of us to agree upon that and carry it forward. So we've really got our work cut out for us.
What kind of homework can we do to be better prepared for this special meeting?
I would say that I would think about how you feel about the traffic mitigation district, because I think that's where maybe you guys might have some good personal input. You've been in town a long time. You may know where it works better than I do. You know, my first instinct is the downtown zone and maybe a higher commercial area. I just don't know if we'll be able to cover that, but maybe there's a more important commercial area or some other area I'm not thinking of. I'm not sure. Bruce, you got anything? Anything they could do?
I mean, to Andrew's point, maybe as you're driving around and, cause you're familiar with the local roads and the traffic volume on those roads and what parking would be like with the traffic volume present. Is there a adequate soft shoulder or a breakdown lane or?
Most of our roads used to be farmland roads.
Yeah.
They're not wide enough really to park on the street. So there's no parking.
Problem, it's not like a,
Yeah.
it's not like you can't section it
No,
out.
it's not, traffic mitigation is not something that I think you can break out a certain area.
Right.
And the areas that you could break out are already fully developed.
So I think there may not be a ton of homework you can do. Just being here tonight and hearing everything we've gone over is a really good first step. I think where a lot of the work is going to come in is when we get the proposed regulations and we start to look at that and think about, are there any changes? You know, is it appropriate? Do we see something that stands out that could be fixed or just doesn't seem right to us? So, yeah.
The biggest thing we can do is when Andrew comes up with dates and needs for a special meeting, try to be extremely flexible in meeting his requests in terms of getting here.
So whatever you thought
So
you were
that
going to do.
we don't have to scramble for quorum and we can set up a meeting and not have quorum.
Send that message out to people who are.
That's right. Just cancel, because this is number one.
And I've got to see, I guess, how quickly we can get a draft of these regulations, because that might dictate how quickly we're actually having this meeting. It might not be the best use of our time to have a special meeting if we don't have the proposed text. Yeah, yeah, right. So I will talk with him tomorrow if he's available and see maybe if he can give me an ETA and then start to plan around that.
We need to be adjustable to your schedule, though, not you be adjustable to ours, that's my point.
Okay,
If you say
thank you.
we need to do this on such and such a time,
And we can schedule this on a shorter notice. It's not a regular meeting. I think it might be 48 hours. I'll have to double check on that. But we could go down to a shorter time, might be in our favor.
yeah, I do think special meetings are, I believe, 48 hours. Notice and then, or after 48 hours.
Yeah.
Emergency meeting.
Yeah. So more to come on the special meeting. We'll get back to you. And with that, I guess we're moving on to the approval of minutes.
Okay, so we can do March 17th, we cannot do the 3rd. So I'd like a motion to approve the March 17th meetings, or minutes
Why can't we do the third? Okay, thank you for the record. Yep. And the meeting minutes are on your screen. Anybody have any questions about them? Corrections? Okay. Thank you.
All in favor? Any opposed?
And commissioner comments. Thank you all for being here tonight. It was a long meeting, a lot of jargon, and I hope I didn't confuse you.
And also thank you, Andrew,
Thank you.
for getting that computer, and now the lapel mic will be.
Maybe I'll have Bruce ask that, just to spread it around. Thank you, everyone. We will see you April 21st, regular meeting. We have a public hearing for a re-subdivision. And if I have any updates on this stuff to give at that meeting, I will. Yeah, prior to the special meeting.